Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. The Silence and the Fury, a upcoming Beastmen vs Lizardmen DLC for Warhammer 2 was recently announced and it's sent everyone into a bit of a frenzy. Mainly because, well, it was a teaser trailer, not a complete trailer, so little to no information was actually given. Now I imagine that it won't be too long until we get a full complete trailer and proper information, but many people have already been speculating about the FLC that usually accompanies a DLC release. I've actually seen a lot of speculation out there, but it all seems to be focused around FLC lords, which actually confuses me a little bit. Keep in mind that with every DLC drop, there's usually a number of FLC. It's not usually just a playable FLC lord for everyone to play with, but usually some other stuff too. This is further reinforced when we look at the Steam DP page, as there is a bunch of different branches. These are the ones that you can see on screen right now. Green Jay, Bacon, Fishcrow, Charlie, and Vase are usually the names that you can expect to be associated with any form of content. Whereas I imagine Domesticated Windows Sync, CW_Nightly, and Upload Test are internal Creative Assembly branches to test out the DLC and see if anything works. So with that being said, there are 5 branches. We've spoken about this in a previous video, and I think it's time now that we know what the DLC is to start speculating as to what we can see. We can already remove one, which is assumably Charlie. This is likely to be the actual DLC, so that leaves us with 4. This usually means it's one FLC lord with its own faction, and 3 other different things. It could be very likely that one of the other branches could be the pre-order incentive, as we are likely to find out what the pre-order incentive is within the coming months. They did say very soon, but Creative Assembly's assumption of time seems to be very strange. For this, let's just assume that all of the remaining branches are of course part of the upcoming DLC. Now when it comes to any FLC that isn't a lord, that's normally tied to the whole Total War Access stuff, usually around 2 items. These are nothing really too special, as we've seen from previous Total War Access builds. It's normally just focused around a reskin, it's just usually that. For context, the previous DLC had 2 Total War Access FLCs. These were just reskins, heroes in fact. The Glade Captain for the Wood Elves and the Skaven Chieftain for the Skaven. Well, just 2 basic reskins, nothing too special there, as we already had Lord variants, which didn't really need much changes. So we can probably expect that when it comes to the Lizardmen and the Beastmen. Of course, we can already remove the Doom Ball from this, as we've seen what seems to be a Doom Ball in promotional art. That of course could mean that they are going to be tied with a DLC. So what could the Beastmen get as a possible FLC? In all honesty, I think that 2 of these FLCs could be tied directly to the Beastmen. This is of course because of the 2 missing Lord and Hero options. The Wargore, a standard hero character which is melee focused, and of course the Great Bray Shaman, a Lord choice which is magic focused. As we're very much expecting the Doom Ball to be a part of the DLC, these 2 are the last 2 remaining ones, and let's be honest, there's not a lot missing for the Beastmen. These are also 2 very easy to do reskins, so I'm assuming that they would just be done for free. This of course makes sense because, well, they're basic reskins. They should have been in the Call of the Beastmen DLC many years ago because there's not too much effort to be placed in them. Generally it's something like that or a mount choice, and there's really no mount choices missing. I know some people are probably expecting a Gorehoof, which is a Centaur Lord or Hero choice, and I do think we'll get one eventually, but maybe it could be tied to the actual DLC itself, as that itself would require a bit more work, so it doesn't make sense of just giving that for free completely. Next we'll move on to the Lizardmen, which we can assume at least one of the missing branches is tied to them. Now we're already expecting some Lord or Hero or both in regards to Chameleon Skin characters for the DLC itself, and there's really nothing missing in regards to mount options or missing heroes. There is of course the Skink Oracle, which rides on a Troglodon mount, and and that could entirely be possible because, well, it's another skink, and the Troglodon is expected to have very similar animations to the Carnosaur. It's a complete reskin, which is entirely possible, or they could just try something new like skink riders on Cold Ones. These were in the lore way back in the day, and it's pretty much just jerry-rigging a skink onto a Cold One. That itself seems a bit more viable to me, as the Troglodon would then require feral Troglodon because, well, you know, we'd want to have a feral Troglodon, and I think Creative Assembly know that, so it's likely that that would be tied to the DLC too. I could be wrong, however, and if I am wrong, then it's very likely that the Troglodon will make itself the FLC release, which I guess could then be the two FLCs remaining, the Troglodon with the Skink Oracle, and then a feral Troglodon. There's not much I can think about here, honestly, with regards to anything that requires a reskin, as the Lizardmen are almost complete, and, well, we're getting another Lizardmen DLC, so they will be pretty much complete then. But now, after a decent amount of time, we can start looking towards the possible FLC Lord, as, well, this is what most people have been speculating about. I would be extremely shocked if Creative Assembly decided that the FLC Lord should be a Lizardmen, because, well, with Oxyotl we'll now have 7. It's actually the race and faction with the most legendary lords. Just a little side note here to everyone who's anti-Skaven, yep, then you complain about the Skaven. But then coming back to the Beastmen, it's very possible that one of the missing characters could end up being the FLC Lord, as the inclusion of Tarox brings the number up to 4, so a 5th is not entirely out of the question. A popular character would be Gorus Warhoof, as, well, you know, he lives to get drunk and have sex. It's the Beastmen way of life, isn't it? Gorus could be an interesting Lord choice, as more Lord and Hero options could come into effect. Plus, it's a Centaur Lord, and we currently don't have any. Though I'm not too sure how Creative Assembly could balance a pure Centaur faction, as Gorus would likely have traits and faction effects that focus around Centaurs. As much as I would like Gore for the Beast Lord, this is just personal preference, I don't think he would be a FLC or DLC Lord anytime soon, as yeah, even I could admit that he's very similar to Kazrak the One-Eye. It's a shame really, but it's just how Beastmen lore was. There wasn't too much originality. A character such as Moonclaw could work out really well, as he is a pure enigma, more of a form of pure chaos. However, even then, he's still very, very similar to that of Morga the Shadowgave, so maybe it's a bit too much? Characters such as Slugtongue, well, I don't know, maybe he's best suited as a legendary hero, the same as Ungrel Fourhorn. Slugtongue himself would probably be best served for a Nurgle-specific faction, and given recent screenshots, it seems that we're not going to get any faction-specific gores until Warhammer 3. We're not done here just yet, as maybe it's not even a Beastmen, as I don't think the Beastmen would need a 5th legendary lord, even if it was free. Mainly because there's only so much that could be done with Horde factions, even if a Horde rework is coming, which we know is. Creative Assembly once stated that they would like to have all Old World races eventually playable on the Vortex map, which even now seems a tad unrealistic as this is the final DLC. Currently the Vampire Counts and the Dwarfs are not playable in the Eye of the Vortex, and we could very much get one of those. Both the Vampire Counts and the Dwarfs have received their reworks in the past. Sure, they're kinda lackluster, but even then, you know, it's still better than nothing. The Dwarfs might be the best option here, as if we look at things realistically, if the Chaos Dwarfs end up being the pre-order incentive, well, the Dwarfs will need another Lord to help fight against them. So better to have something now, as the Dwarfs are already getting kinda stomped a lot, with the Greenskins being the most damaging against them, and of course the Skaven turning around and turning against them too. Thoric Ironbrow seems like a good choice here, as of course he's based in Karak Azul, and with regards to the Eye of the Vortex, he can literally go into any dwarven hold over there, so it's kinda possible. He's also a character that won't really require much. If we look at it in the style of Dryka and her campaign, just a few basic free reskins will serve the dwarves well there, possibly some units, lords or heroes centered around runic magic. Though with all that being said, Joseph Bugman could also work if they want to make a dwarf horde faction. I don't know how interesting that might be, it kinda sounds kinda boring to me, but Joseph Bugman of course has no hold. So a dwarf horde faction doesn't sound too out of the question, and could provide for an interesting playstyle which is completely different to all the other dwarfs. Now we look towards the vampires, and I can honestly say I don't think we're seeing vampires here. The biggest one that we're all waiting for is Neferata, of course, and she does not deserve an FLC slot. She needs to be a DLC character so she can get a lot of attention. It's for that I believe that the vampires won't get anything until Warhammer 3. This is potentially to tie in with any possible Nagash DLC, as of course he has been heavily hinted across Warhammer 2. I know some people would be disappointed here, but think about it this way: do you really want Neferata to just have reskinned mechanics? Because that's normally how it's worked for most FLC characters. I'm stuck between Beastmen and Dwarf here, in all honesty, and I know a lot of people have already been thinking, hey, you've not been mentioning Boris Todbringer whatsoever throughout this video, and yes, you are very much correct here. Which is why I think that Boris could be an FLC Lord, and he could very much be a character tied to Total War Access, because, well, he's already in-game. All you really need to do is make him a legendary Lord and give him some unique voice lines, and, well, that's done, isn't it? Yes, he's got some possible units and heroes, but then again, those could be reskins too, so if we look at about it this way, it's potentially the fact that we could have 4 different legendary Lords. 2 paid for and 2 FLCs, which could work rather well if you think about it this way: Oxyotl and Taurox for purchasing the DLC, another character for just being there for the update, and finally a 4th DLC which technically isn't free. Very similar to Bertsche, where you would need to have not only Game 1 and Game 2 but the original Beastmen DLC. It kind of fits with the theme of having Boris there because, well, Boris was a big part of the Call of the Beastmen DLC, and he's just a very generally well-wanted character. I understand completely that there's been a lot of head-scratching here, and it might be a bit confusing, so let's just break it down by bringing up the branches again, and what's going to be done here is I'm just going to be using random names for the branches. This is just to further make my point, and hopefully everything makes sense. So Charlie is likely to be the DLC itself, so let's just put that there. Next we'd have an FLC Lord tied to the actual DLC itself and the newest patch. 1 Total War Access character or mount or whatever for the Beastmen, and 1 Total War Access character for the Lizardmen, but this could also be Beastmen too. And finally, a FLC Lord, possibly, just for owning everything. It really much depends on what they want to do here. But if we go by the trends of Creative Assembly in the past, all this kind of makes enough sense. We'd have to wait and see how everything goes, but I think more or less I'm on the ball. I have been wrong before, and yeah, I can completely admit it. But let's see what you guys think. What do you guys think is coming as the FLCs for this coming DLC cycle? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.